In this video, I'm going to explain to you how to expand on the AGauge demonstration I previously recorded in order to allow for Modbus communication over TCP socket connection to an external device that is serving Modbus values. The first thing you'll have to do is get the EasyModbus TCP driver from this location on the internet. You could do a Google search for EasyModbus TCP and you'll find this link, EasyModbusTCP.net. Once you get to this page, click on your download and you can see you have a couple different options. We'll go with the .net today. And just click this download button here. Now we're downloaded. Now we'll open up that location. Grab this zip file and we'll put it in our library folder. We'll unzip it, extract all, and there you'll see some more files. What we want to unzip next is the library. And in here you should see the DLL that we're going to use. The yellow zips, they contain some demonstration programs. Once you have the EasyModbus TCP DLL downloaded and unzipped into the folder, you'll also want to download another piece of software called Modbus PLC Simulator if you do not have a device that will actually be serving your Modbus values that you want to see. So you want to go and do a Google search for Modbus PLC Simulator, or just copy this link, plcsimulator.org. Go there and then you can go to downloads, and then you want to right click and then save link as wherever you want to put it on your computer. In my case, I put it in the Modbus Simulator Setup folder. Run that program, tell it where you want to have it set up. In my case, I actually set it up in another folder called Modbus Simulator Installed. It'll actually set up these three first files, and then this is the Vista Reg key. So once you have these first three files unzipped and put here, then you'll want to just simply run this like that. I've already done it though, and it'll set up the unlocking of this program. And once you have that done, then you could simply run it, and you have a Modbus simulator running on your computer right now. Now once you have your Modbus TCP simulator running, we can go back into Visual Studio and start setting that up for use of the EasyModbus TCP DLL. First thing you'll want to do is add the reference of it by going over to References, right click, Add Reference. And as you can see, I already have this listed in here, but you'll probably want to browse, go to the directory where you put your DLL, unzipped it, and just click on it, and then do the add. I'm not going to do it because I've already done it. Once you have it in there, then you could just check the box if it doesn't automatically check for you, and then do OK. Now you see it added there. That's how easy it is to add the reference. Now the next step you'll want to do is add boxes, a box and a button to actually start the communication with the Modbus server. So I can drag this out a little bit. Go to your toolbox. Let's add a button first. And let's add a text box right above there. And maybe we should add a static label. And we'll call this label text. Modbus server IP, just so we know what the heck this text box is later. We can just set that up around here. Move our text box underneath there, and to make things a little easier for knowing what's what, we'll call this TB Modbus server IB, and then we'll move our button underneath it, make it a little bigger, and we'll call this DT connect, and then we'll change its text to the ampersand symbol and then connect. So now we have all that set up. Now we could actually go into the code, and this is where we get the code how to connect up to the Modbus server. Now that we have that all done, we'll go back to the EasyModbus website, and they actually have some pretty good code examples there. If you go to code examples and hover over the Modbus TCP client, it'll take you right to where we need to go. Now in here they have a nice example showing how to connect and actually write some coils, read some coils, read some registers. But the one thing they don't tell you is that you need to actually do a little extra coding here. So we'll go into code samples, and we'll scroll down till we see Modbus RTU. And the important thing we need to grab is this line of code here. Using Modbus, using EasyModbus. Copy that, and then we'll want to put that at our top here, underneath all this other using stuff. So that way it actually really imports the EasyModbus DLL information into this area that we need it to do its magic. Once we have that done, then we can go back and grab a couple of the extra code samples. Let's make sure we go down to the client, TCP client 1, and we'll grab these two, just like that. and go back here. Let's move on over to the insert. But in this case, we want to do a little code changing to it. We want to actually have it grab the IP address from our text box that we set up. So we'll actually set that up as TB, just like that. And you want to add the dot text, and then put your comma back in there. And that's all there is to make the connection. Now once we do that, we'll probably want to have an on-screen display that says, oh, we got connected, or we didn't get connected, besides having an error pop-up message. So let's put in a status. I use labels for my statuses. I'll call this connection status. Just change the text of this label and just put that right there for now. Put that under there. Change its default startup code to offline, and we'll change its identity to LB status. And now if we are able to get connected, what we should actually do first, set up a try. Put all this, yeah, we'll put this in there, and because we probably want to use all this stuff somewhere else, what we'll actually do is copy this up here, or cut this. We'll do a copy for now. Move this up to just before public forms, like that. So that creates our object basically that we could use anywhere in the program now. And then we'll simply cut this off here. Say Modbus client now equal to that still. That, and put that right there. So that's going to set up what we want now, and it'll give us an error message. Now if we have it do that, we'll set up our error messaging line of code now. Text close. Now we got to put our value here. EX to string. That should be it. Of course, it's not going to let me do that. This way. There you go. Now, if we have some sort of connection issue or whatever, it will pop up into the status what went wrong there. Now, of course, okay, we have a connect button set up. We'll probably want to have a disconnect button set up, right? Go back into our designer. Let's add another button. And we'll call that ampersand disconnect. Disconnect. And once we do that, go into the code of it, and we'll add our Modbus client disconnect, and that's that. Let's free up some of this space here. So now we have the button connect and the button disconnect. Now we should be able to run a quick demonstration of it showing that it's online or offline, or if there's an error message. Well, we'll probably want to add one more line of code saying that label text equals connected. Now that we have all that coded, we can do a test. Start button and see what happens. Now we'll want to see what our IP address is if we're doing our server. And 9.3. So we'll do a 192.168.0.3. And we'll see if this works. Oh my gosh, connected. Now if we bring up our TCP Modbus Simulator, we see a number 1 there, which is a good thing, because that means I'm connected. If we do a disconnect, we didn't change our code to say disconnected here, but over here it's still saying connected. Why is that? Let's go back into our code. Got that. Let's add our line of code. Status.text equals this. We'll say offline again. Okay. Run it again. See, we're not connected anymore. program takes a little time for it to update and things like that. So we'll type in our IP address again. 3. Connect. Now we're connected. And now we're disconnected. We're changing our status over here. But you also see over here server idle. So that's the real critical thing you'll want to watch. Connected. See, now we got 2 connections. Even though really we're only connected once. We should be. Got 3 connections. So it's a little quirky over here with this program. Of course we didn't write it, so that's probably why, right? We'll do a disconnect and then continue on to grab values and send values. Now that we have that all tested out, it seems working connection wise and disconnect wise, we'll have to set up a timer go to designer and then toolbox and then components, set up a timer to say how often we will go and send and receive Modbus values from our server. We'll call this TMR Modbus com, and we can leave that to the 100 millisecond interval for now. And then we'll double click on that. And now we'll get to say what happens when that timer goes off. First we'll say Modbus.com enabled goes off. So we don't have any multiple firings of that within the time frame we're trying to communicate. And then we will say to grab some values. Well, how do we do that? We can go back to our website of code samples, and we can actually grab some of these. Paste them in here. So now, with just those 3 lines of code, we're going to write a couple coils, going to read a couple coils, and we're going to read some holding registers. Of course, once we do all that, we'll want to re-enable our timer. True. So we're out of there, right? Now, okay, we've grabbed the values. Now, let's see about putting one of those values. We'll use a holding register to actually go into our gauge value. So we'll do a line of code like this. AGauge value equals read holding registers, and we'll pick the first one, which would be 0. So now every 100 milliseconds theoretically we should be getting the read the holding register value from this server, and I don't care about Skype being updated right now, and which would be actually 40,001. That value should be showing up on the graph on the gauge. So let's go ahead and give it a shot, see how it runs. We will enter an IP address, do a connect. We're connected. Minus all that. And let's put in a value of 200. Uh-oh. Why didn't it work? Now let's go into debug mode. Oh, well, there's your reason. We didn't start our timer yet, did we? So we'll stop it. And then we will say our button click. Once we got connected, we need to start our timer. Now, let's see how that works. Of course, we probably want to stop our timer on disconnect too. So we'll try that line of coding. 192.68.0. Connect. Okay, now we're grabbing values. Oh, that's working now. And look at that. Now our gauge went to 200. Let's put it to 300. See how quick it goes. Wow, look at that. Yeah. So theoretically, if you were connected to a real device that was having changing Modbus values, you would be seeing that right now on your gauge. Okay, now we got that going. Let's stop it. And let's put another value on there. So let's see how a checkbox looks. So we're going to be grabbing coils, 10 coils, starting at address 10. And with that, we could set up this one checkbox. Let's put another checkbox. And we'll say this is coil 1. We'll call this one CB coil 1. And we'll call this one CB coil 2. Coil 2. And we will set these to enabled. We'll leave those enabled. And then we will take those coils and put them in here too. So we'll say CB coil 1 equals read coils to our next coil, CB coil 2. Checked. Goes read coils. Read coils 1. Like that. And now let's go ahead and try it. .0.3 connect, connected. We're receiving, we're sending. Now our coils. See that? We check that. And check that over here. Check that one. That one's set. Unset. And as you can see, we can't uncheck those because our program is still writing those. And we can still change our gauge value to whatever we want still. And that's all there is to it. Pretty easy, huh?